What makes a man look at the same woman for 40 years the way he did on the very first day? Pearl was a black woman who married Otis in 1951 at a Baptist church on the south side of Chicago. 40 years, and his eyes never once cooled on her. Their daughter said he looked at her mother in 1980 the same way he had at the altar. Pearl never read one book on love. She did 20 plain things, and the one at number 4 is the reason the fire between them never went out. Stay with me. Number 20. The older black woman met her husband at the door every evening. Otis worked the mill. He spent his days in a world that called him out of his name, that looked through him like he was glass. Pearl knew it, so when she heard his step on the porch at 6, she came to the door. She had a kiss for him and a cool glass of tea in the heat. She did not meet him with the day's troubles. She met him with her face soft and glad to see him. The house smelled like supper on the stove. For one moment at that door, Otis was not a number at the mill. He was a man whose woman was happy he was home. She called it answering the door. That threshold was the line. His hard day ended on one side of it. Their evening began on the other. Number 19. Her dark hands knew the right red better than any store ever did. In the 1950s, the counters downtown did not make lipstick for brown skin. The reds turned ashy on a black woman's mouth, or the clerk would not even wait on her. So Pearl learned what worked on her. A true blue red for Sundays. A warmer red for an ordinary morning. She put it on before the children had their grits, before the day asked one thing of her. Not for Otis, for the woman looking back at her in the glass. Her own mother had told her, standing at that mirror, a black woman without her lipstick looks like she has given up. And Pearl had not given up on one single thing. She wore her red the day she married. She wore it the day they buried him. That was the whole point. Quick pause. One breath only. Everything on this list came from our women, the ones who knew and were never thanked. Your own grandmother was one of them. So stay close and subscribe to the channel. Thank you kindly. Now, back to the countdown. Number 18. Her brown hands kept a heavy iron hot on the stove for his shirts. Otis went out into a world looking for any reason to call a black man less than a man. Pearl gave that world nothing to point at. His shirts came off her board stiff and clean, pressed sharp enough to cut. Everything he wore, she made right with her own hands before he stepped outside. When Otis walked out, he walked out sharp, not a thread out of place. A black man pressed and clean in 1955 was making a statement, and they both knew what it was. She was sending her husband into the street with armor on. Starch was the armor. She pressed it on him with her own 2 hands. Number 17. In the kitchen of that South Side row house, Sunday started before church even let out. Pearl had the chicken seasoned and the greens going low before she ever put on her hat. The whole kitchen was working by the time they left for service. She made the smothered chicken because it was the plate Otis loved most in this world, not because Sunday said she had to, because she had sat in that pew thinking she would feed her family good today. The cornbread and the cobbler came together around it. Otis knew those pots had been going since morning. He knew she had thought about him with her own 2 hands all afternoon. The cobbler was just for him. Number 16. Her brown skin carried her scent every morning, not just for going out. On Pearl's dresser sat a little bottle of toilet water, sweet and clean. She touched it to her skin before the sun was full up. Every plain morning, between her first cup and her second. Scent does not knock on the front door of a person. It slips around the back to the old part of the mind where feeling and wanting both live. Otis would catch it in a doorway and lose track of what he came in for. A scent worn in one house for 40 years stops being a perfume. It becomes the woman. He never smelled the toilet water. He smelled Pearl, and it pulled at him every time. Number 15. Out on the porch in the evening, she had her people, the church women, up and down the block. Pearl had Sister Mabel from the usher board. She had her own sister on the phone every Thursday while the children were at school. Whatever sat heavy on her went to Mabel or to her sister. The light bill, the thing Otis said on Tuesday that she was still turning over. It did not go on Otis's plate at supper. This was not swallowing it down. Pearl said exactly what she felt and got it all the way out. She just carried it out the right door. Mabel heard the storm. Otis came home to a woman glad to see his face. She got to calm by another road first. Number 14. At the stove on a Saturday night, the older black woman heated her pressing comb on the eye of the burner. Pearl worked the comb through her hair slow with a little royal crown for the shine. The kitchen filled up with that smell every black woman knows, hot iron and grease and clean hair. She did this every Saturday, so she was right for Sunday and right for her own self. Then a scarf tied down for the night to hold it. She was not doing her hair for Otis to look at. She did it because a woman who lets herself go has decided something, and Pearl had decided the other way. The comb was for the woman in the mirror first. Number 13. Up in the choir loft on a Sunday, her own voice rose second soprano. She had a whole life that had nothing to do with her husband. She ran the missionary circle's spring tea. She had a little garden out back, tomatoes and collards, and one stubborn rose bush. She read her ebony and her jet front to back and had opinions about the world. The old folks had a saying for it: be a little hard to figure out. A man keeps looking at a woman who is her own person. A woman whose whole world is one man gives him nothing new to wonder about. Pearl always had something going on. So when Otis came home, he was walking into somebody's life, not the whole of it. He was not her every reason. Number 12. In the front room on a Friday night, her brown arms went around his neck and they danced. The children were down. A Sam Cooke record turned low on the player. The rug rolled back, the lamp dim, nobody watching at all. Pearl fit herself against him, her cheek at his jaw, his hand low on her back. They swayed slow because that is what you did on a Friday when the long week was done. Two bodies moving together in the dark. After all those years, he could still feel the heat come up off her, and she knew it. So she danced a little closer. For the length of one record, they were not the rent or the roof. They were a man and a woman who still wanted each other and were not shy about it. Number 11. On a plain Tuesday in October, the older black woman made his dead mother's tea cakes for no reason at all. Otis's mother had a way with tea cakes, soft and a little sweet, and she had shown Pearl how before she passed. Pearl made them on a Tuesday, not a birthday, not company coming. She had walked past the good butter at the store and thought about him and his mama. When Otis came in and smelled them cooling, something crossed his face. A man who can still taste his mother in his own kitchen is a man being loved on purpose. The tea cakes were just because she passed the butter and he came to her mind. Number 10. In the china cabinet, the older black woman kept the good dishes for company only. Pearl had bought that set on time, piece by piece, over a year. The rule was company and holidays. But every so often, Pearl decided a regular Wednesday was reason enough. She set the whole table with the good dishes, the ones that only came out for the pastor. Then she served the same smothered pork chops she would have served on the everyday plates. Otis would sit down, look at that table, and go quiet for a second. Then he would look at her. She would just say, "I felt like it." A gift you cannot see coming lands harder than one you can. A Sunday on the good china is expected. A Wednesday is not. Number 9. Her brown hand found him a dozen small ways all through the day. A hand on his shoulder as she passed his chair, a palm on his arm when he made her laugh. Little touches, nothing to them, stacked up across 40 years. But not every touch was an innocent one. Some carried a slow promise, a graze of her hand along his back that told him the night was not over yet. Pearl touched Otis the way her own mother had touched her father, like a language with no words in it, so ordinary that he stopped noticing it until the one touch that was not ordinary at all. That is exactly how she kept the want alive. Number 8. Her brown face stayed calm. She picked her fights, and most of them she let go on by. Otis left his work boots right in the middle of the kitchen floor. He did it the first year, and he did it the 30th. Pearl moved them 1,000 times and never made it a war. Not because she had given in, because somewhere early she had decided the boots were not the marriage. Most of what a man and a woman butt heads over never gets solved anyway. It is just who they are, year 1 and year 30. The strong couples make their peace with it and let it lie. Pearl saved her real words for a quiet night, when he was fed, when the house was still, the money, the children, the things that mattered, the boots she let walk. Number 7. 6 days a week, the older black woman cleaned other people's houses and still came home to keep her own. Pearl rode the streetcar across town and scrubbed floors in white folks' homes until her back ached. Then she rode all the way back. And before Otis got in, she washed the day off her and put on a clean house dress. She never sat at her own table in the clothes she cleaned in. Researchers who studied black couples for years found a thing about a marriage like hers. A strong one slows the wear that a hard world puts on the body. It buffers the stress that ages you before your time. Pearl was bone tired, but inside her own door she was held. She would not let that world take her home too. The clean dress was how she kept it. Hers. Number 6. Every night, she had cocoa butter worked into her dark skin slowly by her own 2 hands. Pearl kept it close by the bed and used it without fail. She rubbed it into her skin every night until her brown held the light. Now understand. In those years, there were companies that built a fortune telling black women their own skin was a problem to be fixed. They sold creams to bleach her lighter, to make her less of what she already was. Pearl never bought 1 jar of it. She did not want to be lighter. She wanted to be soft. She loved the brown she was already in. And a woman at home in her own skin is a thing a man feels across a whole room. Number 5. On Sunday morning, she set her crown on her head and walked in like somebody. Pearl had her church hats, and she wore them like they meant something. White gloves, her good dress pressed the night before. She walked into Mount Zion with her back straight and her chin held level. Out in that world, 6 days a week, folks looked through her like she was nothing at all. On Sunday, she answered them without 1 word. She was a child of God, and she carried herself like it. Otis walked in right beside her, and a man walks taller next to a woman who knows her own worth. The hat was a black woman telling the world exactly who she was. He saw her do it every Sunday. Number 4. Her dark eyes could still undo her own husband with one look. 40 years in, Pearl never stopped courting Otis. She called him Mister when she was being sweet on him, the way she did when they were young and sneaking off. A look across the room that made his mouth go dry. Her hip pressed up against his at the stove. A low laugh at his foolishness that she let him see. She did not act like the wedding was the finish line. She acted like he still had to earn her, and he liked earning her. Desire is a fire, and a fire you stop feeding goes cold. So Pearl kept a slow burn under it. A glance, a name only she called him. The marrying never made her stop being a woman he wanted. That was the thing Otis felt every single day. Number 3. On her knees by the bed at night, she called her husband's name before the Lord. Pearl prayed for Otis every night of their life together. When the mill was cutting men, she prayed. When his pressure ran high, she prayed. She put his name in God's ear before her own troubles. Years later, researchers who studied Black couples found what Pearl already lived. The ones who prayed together were the happiest. The ones who put God at the center of the marriage lasted the longest. And that pull of faith ran even stronger for Black couples than for anybody else. Otis was not always a praying man himself, but he knew his wife covered him on her knees. There is a thing that happens to a man who knows he is prayed for. He walks different. He knows he is held by more than just himself. Number 2. The older Black woman did not keep a ledger of her husband's wrongs. When Pearl and Otis had words, she said her piece, and then she let it die. She did not drag last spring into this evening's fight. The Bible on her nightstand said, "Do not let the sun go down on your wrath," and Pearl took that all the way to heart. The marriages that rot are the ones where every old hurt gets kept and pulled back down later. Pearl threw hers out. When it was done, it was done. Otis never had to defend a thing from a year ago. He got a wife who fought clean and forgave quickly. A man can rest in a house like that. Number 1. And this last one is not a thing the older Black woman did. It is the reason every other thing on this list worked. And it is the reason no book and no program has ever been able to sell it to you. Pearl never once tried to keep Otis attracted. She simply never stopped being a woman worth being attracted to. The cocoa butter was not a tactic. The church hat was not a tactic. The cobbler on a Tuesday was not some plan to hold on to a man. They were the plain overflow of a Black woman who had decided to stay all the way herself. She decided it once before the wedding, then again every morning after. In a country that told her she was nothing, she held on to her own worth, sure of who she was before God. Otis got to stand beside that for 40 years, and he knew, every day, exactly what he was standing beside. That is the thing they cannot bottle. That is the thing they cannot sell. Every plain thing on this list, Pearl did. The starched shirt, the cobbler on a Tuesday, the red she would not stop wearing. Years later, a Black scholar named Robert Hill wrote down the strengths our families carried all along. The deep kinship, the hard work, the faith, the way a Black woman could bend and never break. Pearl never read one page of it. She was the page. But the first thing, number 1, was never a thing she did at all. It was the reason all the rest of it worked. She never set out to keep Otis. She set out every morning to stay a whole woman in a world that wanted her gone. Otis got to stand next to that for 40 years, and he knew every day exactly what he was standing next to. Tell me in the comments which one of these the woman who raised you did. The Sunday dinner, the hair press on a Saturday night, the way she met her man at the door. And if you are putting one of them back into your own week, I want to hear about it. If this one found you at the right time, subscribe and stay close. There is more where this came from.